and leading contracts as large as $250 million. She delivered successful results for this Fortune Global 500 company. Sheila's goal is to assist fellow entrepreneurs with expanding their business by leveraging the richest client in the world, the U.S. federal government. She brings actual experience and wants to share with you what works and what doesn't, allowing you to focus on executing your strategy and building your business. She is an honest and transparent, and if you're ready for honest insight to grow your business in the federal market, then let's get started. Sheila?
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
Welcome to the chatter this evening.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Are you ready for me to get started?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So tonight we're going to talk about business development. And I wanted to start off by talking about a myth, or I call it a myth. People believe that business development and sales are the same thing, and they are not. They're absolutely not. And that's one of the things that hurts people that are new into the market, new into the federal market. That is one of the things that hurt them the most, is that they don't understand that there is a true difference between business development and sales, and they come in with a sales mindset, and it causes them to fail and get frustrated and believe that the market is not for them. So let me tell you the difference between what sales is and what business development is. Sales is being focused on a product or service with a specific target amount that you are looking to achieve. There is no desire to build relationships. It's just looking to deliver and meet a number. Business development is all about relationships. It's about finding the right clients, finding the right partners, understanding the market, understanding how you are going to market your company, understanding how sales plays a role in the business development. But more than anything, as a business developer, your job is to understand where is your company going, what are the goals of the company, and how do you, as a business developer help to meet those goals? How do you cultivate the relationships that you're going to need, not just for one deal, but for all deals within the market that you're going to focus on? You market your company to not just a set of companies, but all size companies. How do you make sure that you can compete whether it's a large deal or a small deal? And definitely for small companies, you got to understand how do you build those relationships with the large companies, and what do you take to them to help them see that you actually are bringing something to the table and you're just not looking for a handout. So business development requires a lot of building relationships, very good communications, networking, and understanding the climate that we're in. As a business developer, you really and truly need to understand what's going on in the market as far as elections, who sits in what positions within the agencies, within the departments, and how does it all fit in with where your company is going and what it is that you, as the manager and the one that's going to be responsible for all your sales and marketing folks, what does it mean for you, and how do you guys work with your potential clients and your existing clients? Am I going to talk, or are you going to ask me questions? Luciana? Okay, well, I'll keep talking. So in understanding business development, the first thing that I would say is you got to understand that there's a true difference between business development and sales. You've got to understand how you're going to structure your organization and understanding who you're going to be targeting to be able to meet your company's goals. Not looking at just the dollar amount, but also looking at all the opportunities that you are going to pursue across multiple years and not just 1 year. So that's the first thing, understanding the difference between sales and business development. The second thing is understanding when to hire the right person at the right time. A lot of small companies want to go out and start spending money on business development folks, and they have no strategy. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what they want to do. They may have a dollar target that they want to achieve, but they have no idea how they're going to do it. They don't know if they want to focus on civilian. They don't know if they want to focus on DoD. They just want to go. So before you invest in hiring a business developer, know where you're going so that you can hire someone who has done what you're looking to do. You don't want to invest in someone whose focus has been DoD and you're trying to penetrate the civilian market. That will do nothing for you. You want someone who's got solid relationships and who have seen success where they come from. Not someone that can talk about what they could do, but someone that has actually done it and can show you evidence of what they've done. After you found the right person, you want to make sure that not only are they good at what they do outside of your organization, but they also have to make sure they're good with working with the people within your organization. Your business developer is going to be one of your leaders, or should be one of your leaders, and you want to make sure that the team that's going to work with them, they can work with them. They have good people skills, they have good communication skills, and that they can articulate to their employees what the company's doing, where the company's going, and how the role they play fits into the overall goals that the company's trying to achieve on an annual basis, as well as on a long-term basis. You don't want to bring someone in who the industry has very negative things to say about them. No matter how great they may be as a business developer, if the industry has negative things to say about them, you need to be cautious because they're going to be a representative of your company. And as a representative of your company, you want to make sure you're always putting the best people forward to represent you. If you're going to be that business developer, you need to make sure you are putting forth a good representation of yourself, and don't make everything all about the money, but understanding strategically where you're trying to take your company. You want to establish a framework for assessing your opportunities. Business development is not about just going after any and everything that may come out. There should be a clear plan for where you're going to target your clients, where you're going to target your partners, why you're actually going after certain agencies, what is it that you want to achieve, and more than anything, understanding what are the core competencies that your company has and what do you deliver. You cannot go into every agency trying to deliver your solutions if they're not buying those solutions. You want to understand that if you're a small business, you want to understand what agencies love small businesses, who is small business friendly, and then you want to understand how you as a company will sell your services to them. Don't just go out and say, okay, we're going into the federal market and we're just going to start pursuing. It costs a lot of money to invest in business development without a plan. And you want to make sure that your investments and your time is producing the results that you're looking for. You want to make sure that when you look at your percentage of wins, that your percentage is a high percentage and that you're not deciding to no bid opportunities because you just don't have the expertise, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the people, you don't have the skills, you don't have the relationships, and you just decide after spending weeks and months you're not going to bid it. You don't want to be in that position. And so as part of business development, you got to do your homework. You got to understand what the government's spending. You got to know what their spending habits are. You have to know when they're spending. You have to know what their budget cuts are and where they've been investing their money. And if it's not in what you deliver, don't waste your time going to those agencies. Even if they are great for small companies, don't waste your time going. Your BD costs are going to go out the roof. And speaking of BD costs, you want to make sure that you are including that as part of your overall budget. So understand where you're going and have a plan for where you're going, as well as a framework. Have a process for determining how far do you go before you say, we're going to bid on this, this is a go, and it's something that we could actually, we feel we have a high percentage of winning. So have a framework that has been proven in place. Don't try to create something from scratch. Look at what others have done, or better yet, hire someone who has done that and make sure that the framework is something that will provide you with success versus a position where you have no idea what you're going to get when everything is said and done. After you've developed your framework and you've got your strategy, you know where you're going, you've hired the right people to represent you, the next thing you want to do is make sure that your support team is there and understanding the importance of your support team. Not everybody that you bring in will be a business developer. Some people are just hardcore salespeople, and you need them at some point. There are times when you're going to go after different deals where you just need someone who knows how to go in, have a conversation with that contracting officer, help them to understand what you do, and get that simplified acquisition done, or get that purchase order done. They're not very good at maybe building relationships, or they may have some relationships, but they're very good at closing deals. They know how to get the deal done. They know how to get it closed. And sometimes you're going to need people that just focus on that. Other times you're going to need people who are very good at marketing. They're very good at putting together your materials that you're going to present to your clients. That includes your capability statements. It includes any presentations that you may put together for that meeting with that CIO, with that deputy secretary, with that contracting officer. Make sure you have people that have done or are very good at what they do. You don't want to try to use a salesperson to create your marketing material. And you definitely don't want to have a marketing person going out doing sales. Everyone on your team needs to be adequate and needs to be have experience in doing the job that they've been hired to do, including your business development manager. That needs to be filled by someone that has done that before. This is not the time to bring in your brother because your brother's willing to work for a lower price or a lower salary, but they've never done it before. You need people who understand the market. You need people who have penetrated the market. You need people that have been successful in the market. And you need people that can put together and execute that plan that has been approved for your company. So make sure you have the adequate staff that's needed to be able to go through and sell to the federal market. Once you have identified your methodology, you've identified how you're going to go to market, you've got your team, now you want to start finding opportunities. And those opportunities need to be, again, in line with where the company's going. You want to make sure that you are leveraging your relationships. You want to make sure that you are building solid relationships. You need to be including networking as part of your activities for business development, and you need to make sure that you are making and getting the most out of your networking opportunities. Networking is a great way for you to be able to meet either your customers or other companies that you may be interested in working with. You want to also make sure that as you're doing your networking, make sure it's with organizations that will provide you with the opportunity to be able to present your company and present what you guys do in a favorable way. Don't try to go to every networking event that's out there because, again, not all networking events are for you. If you're focusing on the civilian market, don't focus on going to defense networking events. That's a waste of time. Now, if you're looking to penetrate the defense network, the defense market at some point within that year, yeah, you want to make sure that you are finding opportunities to network there, but work with the people that will give you the opportunities to get into, meet with the clients that you are looking to meet with, or give you the ability to just be able to present yourself and your company. You can't be afraid to talk in networking events. You don't want to be loud and boisterous, but you want to get yourself out there and be known. You want to ask questions, and you want to make sure that you understand where things are with the people that you're networking with and what you can give to them. Networking is not about what you can get from them, it's what can you give to them. How can you help them? You want them walking away feeling, wow, I can use them on this deal. Or I need to get with them tomorrow because we need to prepare for this opportunity. Never leave an event or a meeting with anyone feeling that all they did was give to you. If during your business development you're looking to get and you're never looking to give, your meetings are not going to be successful. You're going to struggle. and moving forward with opportunities, and your phone is going to stop ringing. So always go in with the idea of what can I do for you? What can I give to you? How can I help you? And leave little time to talk about yourself, but do more listening and look for ways to get the information that you're going to need to be able to respond to the opportunities that the clients will be putting out. You want your government clients to feel that you have given them, or they've been the one to give you solutions to the problems that they have. But you're never going to know the problems if you never get to a place where you can help them or have them express to you what the problems are for them. So when you're meeting with your federal clients, you want to find out from them what's keeping them up at night. What are the main issues that they're focusing on? What strategically are they trying to accomplish within that fiscal year? What are some of the major problems that they have to resolve? Do your homework. If there's IG audits or GAO audits, look at those before you go in and meet with, if you're meeting with the CIO or whomever, make sure you review those before you go in. See if there's things that you could actually be able to go in with a solution before you meet with them. 9 times out of 10, federal clients love having contractors come in and speak to them in their language. If you're going in and you're just giving them your CAPE statement and you're talking about what your company does and this is what we did here and this is how much money we made here and we've got this line of credit, that's good, but it's not great when you're talking to the program folks. They want to know, how are you going to help me? How are you going to solve this problem for me? How are you going to address this issue for me? And if you can come in with an approach for how they can actually get to you, that's even better. So you got to do your homework. You cannot go in with just your CAPE statement and nothing else. You will get that initial meeting, but 9 times out of 10, you will never get another meeting. So be prepared. Do your homework. Have a tight presentation. Know what you're talking about. And more than anything, let them know it is not about you, but it's about them. And you're there to solve their problems. You're there to help them with their issues. You're there to give them solutions that will meet within their budget and give them and be able to free up money for them to be able to do other things. Once you've gotten to that place where you understand what your clients are looking for, you want to continue to find ways to meet with them. You want to take advantage of any opportunities to potentially meet with your clients before any solicitation hits the street. If that solicitation is still in forecast or pre-RFP, take advantage of it. Go in, meet with the contracting officers, meet with the program folks. Make sure you're meeting with the key people, meet with the existing incumbents if you need to. Because as part of determining whether you're going to pursue an opportunity or not, it's going to determine, are you going to be able to beat out the incumbent? Are you going to be able to bring in resources from the incumbent? Are you going to be able to put forth a potential recommendation to the client that could impact what the final RFP looks like? Do you know enough to understand what they're spending to date and what they may have to spend going forward? You want to learn everything you can about an opportunity so that when you, as the business developer, go before your corporate board and you're presenting opportunities, you can be very sure on what it is, what it's going, how much they're going to spend, what your chances of winning are, who your potential partners need to be, whether you should be priming a deal or whether you should be a subcontractor to a deal, what potential contract vehicle they may be using. These are all things that you should make sure you have been able to answer and influence with the client. If you're not doing that, then you're wasting your time, and the possibility of you winning opportunities, it decreases greatly when you don't take the time to do true business development. As small businesses, most small businesses don't understand how to go to market, and so they want to leverage the certifications. Nothing wrong with leveraging the certifications, but you still need to do the same things whether you're going after a an opportunity that has a certification applied to it, or if you're going after full and open. Make it a practice to do these things when you're going through your business development process, so it doesn't matter to you whether it's a sole source, where it's a competitive certification opportunity, or whether it's a full and open opportunity. Build that confidence in your team of how you gather the information so that for every opportunity that you go through and as you go through your process, you can make yourself as well as your company feel comfortable whether you can actually pursue it or not and your chances of winning it. The least amount of activities you do before the solicitation hits the street, the harder it's going to be for you to write a winning proposal. And the harder it's going to be for your proposal team to respond to what the government's asking for. Because if you're not already in and you don't know the agency, you may not be able to give them a solution that they're looking for, or you may give them a solution that they currently have today and that was not what they wanted. So spend the time doing the due diligence, understanding what they're looking for, understanding what they need so that your solutions will be right in line with what they're looking for and your price point is in line with what they were expecting to pay. So those are some of the key things that you should think about when you are looking to do business development within the federal market. The main thing that I tell everyone is this: understand how to speak the language. If you are coming from the commercial space, understand that there may be things that you will say in the commercial space that is not said in the federal market. So understand how to speak the language, make sure they understand what you're saying, and do your due diligence. Make sure you do everything you can to gain as much information so that once that RFP hits the street, you're ready to run, you can actually write to what they need, and you feel comfortable that you're submitting a winning proposal.
Wow, Sheila, you just gave a lot of great content in your presentation, and if anyone have any questions, you can type them into the question bar and it'll pop up on my end so that we can answer them. But I do have some questions here for you.
Okay.
So, you talked about bringing in a business developer, somebody who's familiar with the space that you're entering. And the question I have is, what is the components of a solid business development program? If I've never done this before and I'm not sure what I should start with first, where should I start?
So if you don't have a business development program at all, and let's say you're brand new to the federal space and you've never done it before, have no idea, the first thing you want to do is you want to find a person that has done sales and business development in the federal market. There are lots of methodologies and approaches for doing business development, and creating one from scratch makes no sense. But if you've never done it before, you really and truly need to find someone who has sold in the federal market, and they've sold in the specific space you want to sell in. So, for example, I have a client who's done nothing but manufacturing, and they've sold nothing but to the commercial market. And they have a product that they want to sell to the federal government. And they've gone in and they've had conversations, but they've not been able to get any sales. And so what I said to them is the reason why you can't get any sales in the federal market is you don't understand that the government doesn't just buy this type of a product without it being a part of a solution. So you're targeting the wrong clients. So get you a business development person. They don't have to know your product very well when you first hire them, or they don't even have to know your company when you first hire them. That's your job to teach them what your company does. Their job is to position you in the federal space and to build out that program for you. But if you don't have someone who's done it before, you're going to struggle. So the first thing is you got to find a person who's done business development before and done it successfully. They've got to understand what type of company you are. They have to understand where you are, and they will then build out that program for you. Now, some of the key elements that you need to have in your program is you need to have a process for determining when you make a decision on whether you're going to bid or no bid. Some specific questions that need to be answered on whether you're going to bid on something or no bid on something. You need to have a way to gather information about the opportunity and a way to be able to look at the solicitation, the pre-solicitation, the RFI, the source of salt, whatever's coming out, a way to be able to review those things and have a panel that can make decisions on whether you want to invest going forward or not. And the panel needs to be made up of individuals who are not a part of your business development team, but have some important roles within your company. So they may be a part of your accounting staff, they may be a part of your program area or whatever side of your company that does the execution, and of course the CEO should be a part of that. And that team needs to be ready to make the hard decisions on whether you should continue investing in the deal or not. And the third thing that you have to have is you need to know what your budget is for business development. Business development is not a free task that's done within the company. Most companies don't think about it, and so you need to understand for a deal, how much do you want to spend in business development before you decide that, okay, this is more than what we want to spend, and we're not gaining any information. We're going to now make a decision to move on. So those are the key things that you need to have in place.
Wow, you actually knocked out another question I had about the bid, no bid process. Now, I do have a question from one of the listeners, and they want an example of what you mean by speaking the language.
Okay, so this is actually a conversation I just had with a client. So I have a client, they are a commercial client, and they have a product where they help their customers understand financially what the impact is of the solutions, the systems that they're building, what kind of a financial impact it has. And it helps them to make some decisions on what their return on investment should be going forward with their applications. Well, they wanted to go in and sell to the federal government, but they didn't understand that the federal government and the acquisition and the financial aspects of the government, they didn't understand how any of that worked. So they didn't understand anything around obligations and de-obligations and understanding their financial terminology. So when they went in to meet with the CIO, which was the wrong client for them, they need to be meeting with the CIO and the CFO. They're talking from a commercial standpoint. The CIO was completely lost because they were saying, well, we need to get your books and you need to open up your books to us and we need to be able to get access to all of these things that the government doesn't track. They don't have to track. And so they kept telling me, well, we can't get past the first meeting. And so they presented to me what they presented to their clients. And I said, well, the first thing is you don't understand the terminology that the government uses. So you need to be able to speak what they speak. You need to be able to understand how they understand. So if they do an obligation, which is where they put money on a contract or they set aside money to put on a contract, but on the commercial side, you say you do this is an application. Well, you need to understand that you got to talk obligations to them. It may be applications on the commercial side, but obligations to them, so they understand that, okay, well, this is what they mean by this. So again, it's doing your homework and learning, and there's a lot of jargon in the federal government. There are a lot of acronyms, but you got to learn it because that's how the government speaks, and you need to be able to speak the way they speak.
Wow, it's something like the accounting and government when we talk about immaterial cost and unbillable versus unallowable. And
yes,
if you're not accustomed to that, you'll be in there with somebody who can actually give you the contract, but they're skeptical of giving it to you because it just seems like you don't know enough to be successful in the government contracting space.
Right. Or they are hesitant. You have to remember the government employees, some of them have been scared into thinking, well, if you sign that contract and that vendor doesn't deliver and it was something that was illegal, you're going to jail. And so they want to make sure I'm not going to jail. I'm not signing my name that's going to send me to jail. I got to understand what you're talking about. So that's why if you've never done government contracting, you got to bring in people that have. You have to have someone that's sitting there with you to help you prepare for that meeting and teach you how they speak because you will fail. The government is very risk averse and nobody really wants to sign their name on the contracts anyway. So they want to make sure I understand exactly what I'm getting from you because I'm not going to be sitting before the IG or someone else having to explain why we gave you this contract and we thought we were buying one thing, but you were selling us something different.
And you know, it's funny that you said people are concerned about going to jail because when you read these contracts in this little bitty print, it says the person who signs this document is is responsible for the execution, oversight of said work, and any fallout or whatever, you may be subject to a penalty, a fine, which will include jail time.
Exactly.
It actually says that in the documents.
Yep,
So
it sure does.
winging it in government contracting doesn't really work. And people are sketchy about putting their names on things because, like you said, nobody's going to jail for you.
Exactly. And reality is, it's not up to the government for you to read a solicitation. If you don't want to read a 200-page solicitation, then don't bid on it. Because when you miss that one clause that says that you have to do something by this date and you don't do it, and they say that you're not performing and they issue a stop work order, you can't complain. They're going to pull out that contract and they're going to say, because the solicitation becomes a part of your contract, they're going to say, well, here's the clause that said this. Well, we didn't know that. We didn't see that. That's not their problem. That's your problem.
Yeah, because the contract does have a line that says it's inclusive of any terms as stipulated in the request for proposal, whether expressly stated or not.
Yes.
That's their get out of jail free card. You gotta read everything.
Exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
you brought up something interesting when you were talking about the business developer. And you mentioned their reputation in the market. Can you expand upon that a little bit? Like, what do you mean you need to know their reputation, and if their reputation isn't good, you should be leery of onboarding them? Can you kind of expand on that a little?
Yes. So everybody in the federal market, whether you are a contractor, subcontractor, a federal employee, everybody should be cautious of what people are saying about you. Your reputation as a business developer, as a delivery program manager, as a finance guy, doesn't really matter. If people are saying you are shady, or that you can't be trusted, or that you don't pay people, or that you steal people and steal contracts, that is not good. The federal market is small. I mean, everybody may think, oh, it's nationwide. It is nationwide. But trust me, there will be at least 5 companies or more that know about people that work in your company. And people and the word about people spreads very quickly. It is so easy for me to pick up the phone and call someone and say, hey, do you know Luciana Turner? I just had a conversation with her, and I want to know something about her. And if they know you, they are not going to waste their time not telling me. The first thing that they will say to me is, or to anyone is, don't mess with her. This is what she's done. And people don't spread rumors. You usually can find information to support what you're hearing about people. So you don't want to be known as that person that smiles in someone's face and stabs them in the back. You don't want to be known as that person who steals deals, or who steals people, or who doesn't like to pay people, contractors, subcontractors, and vendors. You don't want to be known as that in the federal market. So your reputation is extremely important, because even the government contracting officers and specialists, they want to know who are we doing business with. And if you've been known not to pay your subcontractors, they know that, because subcontractors will talk. They'll go and tell the contracting officer, we're not getting paid. They will talk. And the subcontractors, and the contracting officers and the specialists, every deal that you on, you get what's called a PTAR or a CPAR, where they will provide a performance assessment of what you've done on that contract. That is information that everyone in the government can have access to. The government contractors, they're going to want to ask for, and they will ask for, information on someone they can contact about deals that you've been on. And if it's not good, you may think your client thinks you're great, but they've written all these negative things about you. That becomes a part of your record. And when people find out that you're not who you say you are, or your standards are not what they think they should be, they're not going to call you to work with you. No matter how great you are, they're not going to call you to work with them.
And, just to piggyback on that, it's never good to inflate your knowledge or exaggerate your knowledge. Because
Exactly.
once that gets around, that's the kiss of death. Because
Yeah.
now they're doubting everything that you've ever said. And as you said, the government is very risk adverse.
Yeah.
So if you, I don't want to use the wrong term, if you misrepresent your skills and knowledge in any area, now they're questioning everything that you said.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I worked for one of the larger contractors who bought a small company, and somebody didn't do their due diligence. This is all this problem was. But that small company, the reason that owner sold the company is because their reputation was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
were putting in people for positions who weren't qualified. They weren't paying on time. It was just, we had to form a tiger team just to straighten out their mess. Because there was, a couple of contracts, what they call in critical stage, that was about to get yanked. And they, once again, they didn't divulge it to the people that were buying them, so they didn't tell nobody else. So it's important that you have that mindset on there. And there was I have another question for you. And I know you talk about people having experience in the federal space or in the space you're trying to operate in, whether it's federal, DOD, civilian. Um, so what skill sets should you really be looking for in your business developer if you're going to hire somebody, or a business development team if you intend to outsource your business development?
So for your business development leadership, I'm going to just say leadership, because some people call them managers, some call them VPs, some call them presidents. For the person that's sitting at the top, they have got to have a knowledge of the federal market. You can't bring someone in from commercial and try to get them to sell in the federal space as a business developer and be successful. It's extremely hard for them if they've never sold in that space before, because the main thing is usually people will come in that don't have the knowledge and they think that I can drop some names, and I call them name droppers, and because I know so and so, they're going to be excited because I know so and so. Well, first of all, contractors and the government, they're not big on name dropping. Some people get excited about it, most people don't. So you need to really have experience in the market. The federal government, like you said, is a lot different than the commercial market. And if you are going to be that person representing a company, or you're hiring someone to represent your company, they not only have to learn your company, but you want them to already know the federal market. You don't want to be paying them to learn your company and the federal market, because that learning curve is big. It's really big. You want someone who has gone up through the ranks and they've actually been able to lead deals. They've been able to pursue and win deals. And depending on where you're going, let's say that right now your target is $10 million in fiscal year 2017. Let's say that's your target. And you're brand new. Well, first of all, that's a high target for someone that's brand new. But I like you because I love seeing people that are aggressive. That's great. But you don't want to hire someone who's only won $5 million. That's the most they've ever won. You want to hire someone who's won $100 million, because they have to be able to go through lots of deals before they get to those deals that you're going to win, because they have no idea where you are. They don't know what you've done. But they need to have the experience of basically going through the ranks and understanding how to operate at every level, because they're going to be managing people at every level. If you're on the sales side, you want to bring in salespeople that have actually sold in the federal market. I mean, successfully sold in the federal market. And not, I signed a $500,000 deal, or I want a simplified acquisition that's $125,000. They need to have done more than what you're looking for them to do if you're expecting to grow. Now, if you're expecting to have a lifestyle business where you just want to make a few thousand or a few $1,000,000 and you're good, again, they need to be able to have sold at least with where you're trying to go, and they've got experience in doing that, because they understand there's a difference between going after a $125,000 deal and a $125 million deal. There's lots of things that you have to do differently, and the approaches are going to be different. So the main thing is, when you're looking at your BD and marketing folks, marketing maybe not as much, because you can actually hire people out of college to help you with your marketing if they're really good and very innovative. But your business developers and sales, they really need to have already sold in the market.
I have another question. The question is being asked is, what type of NDA do you need to establish with BD people? Or do you even need to have a non-disclosure with your business developers?
Well, I mean, it's up to the owner of the company. When you hire people, you can put something in place that says they can't share the information. I wouldn't say it's just with business developers. It's how you want to handle all of your employees, because reality is this. Every person that you put on a client site can become a salesperson for you. And that's because they're building relationships with clients that you may not even know about. But they may be, and they may not even be in the decision-making position, but they may have a great relationship with the person that is. So it's all about how you want to handle your employees. I've never signed an NDA at all. Even when I was a partner with the largest consulting company in the world, I didn't sign an NDA. I have NDAs with companies that I work with. I have NDAs with individuals that I work with. But internally, I never had an NDA. Now, your NDA, if you're going to put one in place, it shouldn't be that different from the NDA that you're going to put in place with companies that you're going to go to market with. So I would be careful with the NDAs, especially when you're talking your business development, your employees, because there should be some kind of agreement that they signed as an employee of your company. If you're bringing in 1099s to do your business development, then I would have in their contract some specific wording around what information they could actually share, what decisions they can make, how much they can represent you and things they can say on your behalf, and what the penalties would be of them taking where you're going or the things you're pursuing and sharing it with others. But I would be very careful around just bringing in 1099s to do business development. Business development is critical to your company, and you usually want to have them be employees who are dedicated to the company and not just people for hire.
Now, would you recommend a small business just entering the space to start off with a BD company to kind of help them establish their process while they look for somebody to onboard? Or would you just recommend they just onboard someone directly?
So if it's a small business that has never done work in the federal market, so you got to be careful with the BD companies that exist out there today. There are some that are really good, but they're pricey. So as a small business, you most likely will not have the money that's needed to hire a BD company, because they're not going to be, $1,000 a month. It's going to be more than that because of what they're going to be doing for you. So my recommendation would be is, if you're a small company that's coming into the federal market, find you a coach who can teach you how to pursue the federal market, because it's going to cost you far less to have someone teach you and how to penetrate the market versus trying to go hiring a company that does that. Those companies, because they do more than just the business development for you, they will also be looking to sell you on proposals and other things. But just the business development by itself can cost you somewhere between $25,000 to $30,000 for one deal, depending on the size of the deal. So I would recommend, if you've never been in the space before, hire your coach. If you don't have a partner who's done this, anything in the government space, hire a coach. It's going to cost you far less, and you will get tools and other with good coaches. They'll give you the tools, the templates, the training, everything that you need, the process that you would need to implement what you're looking to do.
Okay. Now, here's another question. I'm going to let you answer, then I'm going to kind of tag on to it because it's a budget question. And the question is, should there be a percent of revenue that you set aside for business development in your budget when you set up your BD budget?
Absolutely. So when you're setting up your annual budget, there should be, and so the rule of thumb that I've always used, and this is from my experience of pursuing deals is we always would, after we've developed our strategic plan and we've got our financial targets of where we wanted to be, we would set aside 10% of what we expected to bring in to be for our BD, for our business development. And that money is used for not just the labor, but anything else that goes along with it. Because, you know, BD guys are going to do lunches and other things. And so we would put aside 10% of what our target was for our annual target to apply towards business development.
And I want to piggyback on that a little bit. In government contracting, the budget process is always a part of the strat plan or the strategic planning. And it's different in the federal space. You know, some people, they sit down and take a week and they say, this is my budget for the year, and they use last year's actuals and they apply an escalation, they go back to business. We need to do a little more in-depth thinking on this.
Yeah.
Because the larger you get, the government, you know, DCAA, the Defense Contract Audit Agency, audits your budget. So when you just apply an escalator, you have to justify that to them.
Right.
And then they want to see in your budget, your business development is your strategic plan is you want to make $1 million. So your business development budget, if we're going to apply the 10% rule, would be $100,000. Well, that $100,000 needs to be broken out. So it's a little more than just applying a percentage, because it has to include your labor. It has to include whatever overhead cost. You have to include your unallowable costs that you cannot bill the government, but that has to be broken down in your budget as well. So when you're in the government space talking about budgets, it takes on a whole nother definition than in the commercial space. So you have to, you know, like you were talking about, the BD guys love to do lunch. Well, all of the lunches are not allowable costs, right, according to DCAA. And if you're going to make them all allowable, you better have some powerful backup. And they start at that budget, because the budget is the basis of your rates. And then they audit the budget, they audit the rates. They auditing rates now like it's an incurred cost submission. It's not quick and dirty like it used to be. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Yeah, let me just add a little bit on to what you said. So something that most small businesses don't know is, and I ask this all the time, and they're like, I don't know what that is. Most small businesses don't know how to calculate a rack rate, and they don't even know what a rack rate is. But like Luciana said, when you're doing your strategic plan for your annual strategic plan, you've got to take into consideration what your overhead, your G&A, your fringe, your profit, all of that has to be taken into consideration. And if you've not developed a chart of accounts that will allow you to capture information in the right places so that when you go through an audit, you're going to struggle, really, really struggle. And so understanding how your rates will have an impact on what you are pursuing and how you're meeting your targets, your financial targets, what you can build and can't build, that's critical. And so business development is not just going out and just finding work. It is that, but there's other things that your business development manager, VP, president, whatever you want to call them, there's other things that they need to be accountable for, and understanding that budget that they have and how it's being applied is extremely important.
And that goes back to a topic we're going to jump in. I'm going to touch on when I do my presentation in October, and even at the event that Sheila's going to be speaking at and that I'm hosting here in Charlotte in October. Your accounting system has to be, you have to invest in it. And when I say investment, I'm talking about more than money. There has to be a thought process behind it. And the chart of accounts has to be detailed enough. We don't need 5,000 levels, but it needs to be simplistically detailed so that you can show your costs and how these costs are flowing through. You have to understand how your costs flow through, you know, the whole system. And then, quite frankly, QuickBooks ain't going to cut it. It's good. It'll get you started, But when you start trying to grow and you're trying to hit those larger contracts and you're trying to move from fixed price to cost plus, QuickBooks ain't gonna get it for you. The
Yeah.
government's gonna start looking real sketchy.
Yeah, and I'm sure next month when you talk about the financial side, understanding that you've got to even have a documented process around how you do your financials. It's not something you can just sit back and write on a piece of paper and say, okay, that's it. No, you got to have it clearly documented, and it plays a huge role in your success as a federal contractor.
Wow, so we've ingested quite a information this evening. Did you want to have some closing words? Because I think we've covered all the questions that I have.
Sure,
So
sure. So, I'm sorry, go on.
I'm sorry, did you want to throw some closing thoughts out there to our audience?
Yes, so for anyone who is just getting started, or even if you're already in the market, but you just aren't seeing the growth, you're not seeing the success that you really and truly want in your company, go back and look at what you're doing from a business development standpoint. 9 times out of 10, your business development doesn't have the adequate processes that you need, and you don't have the adequate people that you need. But more than anything, it could be that you haven't even developed the strategy that you need. So make sure that you take the time to really develop a strategy that can then be broken down into specific goals that you will assign to individuals to achieve, and make sure that you've got people that understand the market. Even if you don't understand it, find someone that does. And I'm telling you, one of the things that I would say on the government side is most contractors don't think about getting coaches, but they can be extremely helpful, especially if you're a small business and you don't have the money to invest in, bring in a business development company, or you don't want to just invest in a 1099 who says they've done and they don't do, and you're just paying and getting nothing from it. So make the investments that are needed up front, because they will give you the return on the back end. It's going to be the return that you were looking for.
And that is so true. Unfortunately, people want to be quick and dirty with everything. And it's like, oh, I'll deal with that later. But later in government contracting will cost you money. I mean, I've been in that experience. Government's not timely with anything. And here comes the audit, and because you said I'll do it later, and they're looking at, well, what was your procedure, and you don't have it documented, it calls into question your whole operation.
Right.
And it's easier to just do it right, get that assistance in the first place, than it is to sit up here and try to recreate history. I've done it. That's why I'm good at writing things that mean absolutely nothing 15 different ways, because I'm trying to confuse the auditor. Now I'm just being real. Because it's 10 years later and nobody kept it, but you don't want to say, you know what, I can't support the cost, because they love to add penalty, and they take the penalty all the way back to day one and add it up. And that $5,000 charge becomes $20,000 check to the government, and nobody wants to give anybody. I don't want to give nobody that. So
Exactly.
Just do it right in the first place.
Right. So I tell people all the time, the federal government has contracts, or they sell services that could be in excess of $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it? What would it cost you, or why wouldn't you invest $50,000, $100,000 for someone to come in and teach you how to do things right? And so that when you win that $1 million deal, that $10 million deal, that $100 million deal, that $1 billion deal, and the government comes in and they do an audit and they find nothing wrong, wouldn't that be a great investment? Versus, as Luciana said, having them come in and they find that you did all these things bad, and they tell you, okay, that $10 million contract that you won, we want all the money back.
And they will ask for it back.
And they will. They will.
It is not
I worked for a large guy who got penalized because he didn't understand, or maybe he did understand but didn't care what the requirements were around um, employees and understanding whether they were, what's the word? I can't even think about it. Salaried versus non-salaried employees.
Oh, yes.
And they got hit with a $10 million fine from the government. Now, of course, they could pay it, but they didn't want to pay $10 million back to the government because they had underpaid employees and didn't understand Department of Labor requirements. Those are things you got to think about, even from a business development standpoint. You got to think about those things because they will impact your company. So,
Yeah. It's something,
no,
I was just going to say, all of this is a part of your business development. When
it
you sit
is.
down, you do your bid, no bid, okay, we're going to bid. That's why your Tiger team has to include, I would say, somebody from HR. Because somebody has to say, wait a minute, when we're developing these categories, let's make sure that we're classifying people properly.
Exactly.
Not only do you have to pay the fine to the government for misclassifying, you have to reimburse those employees back to day one of employment.
You sure do. You sure
And you
do.
have to do it within a very tight turnaround, or you pay another penalty.
Yep. Yeah.
They don't play. So, Sheila, how can they get in touch with you?
So if you're interested in speaking with me, you can reach me at Sheila at governmentcontractorcoach.com, or you can go to my website, www.governmentcontractorcoach.com, or you can give me a call at 703-505-1485, set up a discovery session with me. And the purpose of the discovery session is for me to understand more about what you do, for you to understand how I can help you, and to make some decisions on whether we actually would be able to work together and move forward. So I would love to work with anyone who's already in or looking to get in. As you can see, I'm not one that holds anything back. So if I feel like you aren't doing what needs to be done, or if I feel like you're not going to do what needs to be done, I'll let you know.
And Sheila, can you repeat that phone number again?
It's 703-505-1485.
All right, and I'm posting the information in the contractor chatter group. And thank you, Sheila, for taking time out of your evening and working with me with having to reschedule from last week to this week. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And so next week, we're going to continue to chatter with Miss Stephanie Burrows. Stephanie?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. She's going to be our guest speaker next week, and she's going to speak to us on Grow Your Grit for Contracting.
Yeah, growing grit for government sales or government contracting. You're going to need it.
Because contracting can be a little tough at times.
At times, it's not just the it's not just the contracting, but it's just the entire process. And
Yeah.
for those that are just wanting to get started and coming in, as you know, Sheila did an awesome, awesome job. I have tons of notes, and we say a lot of the same things. But I loved hearing what you had to say about the BD because some of the clients I've worked with have had some real challenges where they're hiring people and they're hiring young people, but they're not using a system. And I think. Luciana, you were asking about what is a system that needs to be done, and they're not using a system, and so they think that BD is just getting on the phone and making calls to people, and then they're upset when there's no the results aren't what they were anticipating. So everything that we do, there should be a process and documented process so that it is sustainable and it is also repeatable, and even if new people are coming aboard, they can look at those SOPs and have a baseline to follow. But one has to grow grit, and I see a lot of folks falling out and falling apart and giving up and disappearing because they give up too easily and they don't know what they're doing. And you were very, very on point with they need to have a coach, in my case, navigator. So I'm looking forward to being able to share some specifics on what I'm talking about when I say growing grit for government contracting next week. But I'm very appreciative of everything that you shared today. It was really informative.
Can I just add one last thing? I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody's got to remember you get what you pay for.
Mm-hmm.
If you pay little, you get little. You pay a lot, you're going to get a lot. So the BD side of things is the most important, and I would not be shy on paying for good talent around business development.
Right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening for the contracting chatter. I look forward to seeing everyone next week as we continue the conversation. And I just say to you all, take this information and use it to grow. This is actionable items that we're sharing with you tonight that you can get off this call and then go forth and get started. So I just want to thank all of you for participating, and I'll see you next week.
See you later.
Good night.
Good
Good night,
night.
everybody.